For those of you that have landed on my channel from some other educational motorcycle channel, awesome. Thank you. Welcome aboard. Things are about to get a little crazy. We're not like those other guys. For the rest of the degenerate group of subscribers, let's get this party started. And for the ghost subscribers, hit the button. A beginner rider is something that is kind of open to interpretation. This is gonna be weird because it's like describing the perfect spouse. What some people desire in one aspect, others may not like in others. Seriously, let's just roll with it. It's gonna be like Match.com Yammie Noob style. The beginner rider. Before I dive into the traits of the beginner bike, I wanna go over who the rider is. It's you. You're probably watching this video and you probably haven't even started yet, so you are a beginner rider. But you are uniquely different from the next person that's watching this video. You need to consider a lot of things before you run out and buy a bike and then call it your beginner bike. The most important things that matter as a beginner are gonna be the riding experience that you have, your background, your personal experiences with learning, your age, and your location. These factors will help determine the needs that you have to be met with a motorcycle before you tackle the wants you have from a motorcycle. I know some people have started on leader bikes, 600s, or 300s. The difference is between all these riders that they are all individuals. The guy who started on a leader bike maybe had over 12 years of riding a dirt bike by the time he was 18, and then he just kind of wanted to get one to go fast in a straight line. The other guy who started in a 600, he's in his 30s and he took the experience cautiously. Maybe he's not learning as much, but he's having a good time. The dude in the 300, that was me. Define your own parameters for a bike and then start narrowing down what's gonna work for you. Engine size. The biggest or smallest thing that new riders ask experienced riders is, what size of engine do I get? Although not a deal breaker amongst the cruiser crowd, the dual sport, supermoto, and sport bike crowd take these numbers seriously. There's a huge difference in performance between a 650cc bike and a 600cc bike. Plot twist, the 600 is much faster. Newbies are sometimes in awe over an R3 for months at a time, while others have buyer's remorse over buying a GSX-R 600 over a 1000. Engine size is something that you alone need to sort out. It's not something that someone can tell you exactly what you need because, well, they're not you. Don't listen to the local squid, the bike salesman, or even someone who's crashed on a 600. Maybe a 650 is right for you. Maybe a 300 is right for you. Take everything everyone has to say with a grain of salt and come to your own conclusion. The important thing you need to realize here is that your set of skills are not developed yet on a motorcycle, and bikes that have larger engines typically have much thinner margins for error. So, in theory, is a Ninja 300 a beginner bike? Yes. Is a 600 a beginner bike? Sure. An R1? Sure. A Goldwing? Sure. But the difference is that if you were to make a mistake on a 300 versus making a mistake on an R1, you might actually have a chance of survival on the 300 versus an R1 because the margin for error is much wider. Asking yourself what you can handle is a question that only you can answer. It's more about maturity than engine size. You can literally die on a 125cc bike just as literally as a Hayabusa if you run a red light. Don't think that engine size is a determining factor. The bigger sizes offer a lot more potential to get stupid, go crazy fast, or be in danger, but that's where your own confidence comes into play. Here's my own opinion about this though. Tend towards a smaller bike. You're gonna learn so much more on a smaller motorcycle than you will on a bigger bike. Bikes like a 600, a 1000, you won't even get close to feeling what the limit of grip is like. You won't even understand throttle control as well because you're gonna be more scared more often than not. So in my opinion, start on a smaller bike. Research engine sizes and rider experiences, but also look in the mirror. Can you handle a motorcycle that rips 0 to 60 in 3 seconds and runs a quarter mile in 11 seconds? Because most 650cc bikes are about that quick. Most car enthusiasts haven't owned a car that fast, but they understand the concept. This only relates to speed and engine size. The bigger the engine, the faster the bike, and the harder it's going to be if you don't have any experiences. But do you want to know about some bikes that are excellent for beginners? Look no further than our very own beginner bike giveaway series. We have a Suzuki DRZ 400, a Ninja 400, and a CB650R. All three of them make great choices to start off on, or even a second bike if you already have one. Head over to yammienoob.co, that is .co, to get signed up on a subscription package where you not only get chances to win these bikes, but you also get access to our Discord server and can submit content for It Came From Craigslist. Not feeling the subscription life? I hear you. You can go to yammieNoobMerch.com and buy some of the sweet merch available from yours truly. Every dollar equals an entry, so don't hold back. Now let's talk about the size of the bike. What size is a beginner's bike? When you take the MSF course, you're going to be put on something small. Why? Small bikes are easy to maneuver and the best to start on. Having a small and nimble size paired with a small and conservatively powered engine make for a bike that is safer in the hands of a noob than, say, a leader bike. You'll never see an MSF where there's 5 different R1s ready to go so you can start trying them out. If you physically cannot manage the size of the bike, then you probably shouldn't be riding it. This goes for anyone trying to ride any kind of bike. When you're sitting on a 700-pound touring bike at the dealership, it feels great. Try moving that around in a crowded parking lot during the holiday season and you might be regretting your purchase. A lot of short guys come from the sport bike scene, try to get on a dual sport, but then realize that they physically can't climb on these things. They end up going for smaller engines, a different manufacturer, or actually find a way to sit on these bikes. Someone who is 6 feet tall has the ability to sit comfortably on nearly any bike out there, except a Grom maybe. Someone who is 5'6" or shorter are stuck to bikes that need to be tiptoed or even lowered. The overall size of the bike is really going to matter, as will its weight. Can you pick up a 400-pound bike if it ticks over? What about a 600-pound bike? If you're on a smaller size of the spectrum, you might want to consider the weight of the bike before you go splurging on something heavy. However, with proper control and positioning, you can pick up just about any motorcycle. Riding position. Experienced riders know a thing or two about riding position, or as we call it, ergonomics, so it would behoove you to learn what works and what doesn't. When you look at bikes that are sort of geared towards starting or beginners, you're going to find that not only do they have smaller engines, smaller frames, but they also have very upright riding position. This is huge for people in their 30s, someone with a disability, or even military veterans or those kinds of people. It's normal for sport bikes to be uncomfortable, but some riders have physical ailments that make riding a sport bike unbearable at times. For me, for example, I have a torn ligament at my T5 vertebrae that makes riding super leaned over sport bikes on the street for long periods of time pretty damn uncomfortable. On track, no big deal, but for a long period of time, a very pitched over riding position does horrors to my back. Beginner bikes and their upright riding positions bring relief to the rider. It gives them the feel of a sport bike without being in one, but it also allows for a fully tucked in riding and track duty if the rider wants. A lot of old sport bike riders eventually buy a cruiser because it's a more comfortable ride, or an adventure bike. If you need help finding which bike is going to be the most upright or see the most forward lean angle, head over to cycleergo.com and take a look. Total honesty, it's going to help you narrow down what bike is probably going to fit you best. Remember, these are stock height and stock positioning on the rear sets. Ergonomics. So let's talk about them a little more. When it comes to ergonomics in the beginner rider, control matters the most. Sport bikes are great for high-speed fun and dragging knee through turns, but have you ever tried a slow-speed U-turn? Is it an acquired skill? The smaller, more nimble, and easier to handle bike will be the most beneficial to a new rider. Try hopping on a leader bike and trying to execute a tight U-turn out of a gas station or even a dead-end road. Skill level, experience, weight, and the bike's engine size come into play with that level of control. The difference between a 300cc and a 600cc is night and day, even when simply taking your hand off the clutch and trying to rip a U-ey. A beginner motorcycle is one that won't get away from you or be a backbreaker on some tighter maneuvers. You shouldn't be exerting extra effort or straining yourself just to ride your bike. You should be able to control it with ease. Speed. We gotta talk about it. Speed is one of those things that the rider has an absolute control over. You can get a speeding ticket on a Ninja 300 just as you can on an R1. Speed is an option on all motorcycles, but how fast and how quickly you get there does depend on the bike you own. For the beginner rider, I do not advocate speeding over the speed limit. I don't think anyone should be going insanely fast unless you're on a track. But still, a new rider should probably gain street experience before hitting a racetrack. Should a beginner bike be able to go fast? So this is a big toss-up in the riding community because unlike cars, some bikes just don't have the capability to get up to speed quickly. I already did a video on the slowest bikes out there and they make it difficult for merging onto the highway or even accelerating. It's okay to go 0 to 60 in 3 minutes in a big old dump truck, but on a motorcycle, extended acceleration times can become a little bit scary. So do you need a fast bike? That's for you to decide. I'm gonna be honest, if you've never ridden a motorcycle, jumping on a 300cc bike is gonna feel pretty fast. They do 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds, which is considered quick for most cars. So if you're not used to it, it's gonna feel quick. An FD07, for example, does 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. So if you're ready for it, have fun. But also ask yourself, are you riding in the city and the country? Are there a lot of high-speed limits in your area? These are factors to consider when you think about how tempting a brand new 250cc bike is when it has a top speed of only 88 miles per hour. You might want to opt for something with a top speed of at least over 100 because you know accelerating from 0 to 60 will be quicker, like a 300 or a 400cc bike. Price. Gotta talk about this one too. I think it's safe to say that we all make different amounts of money here. What is expensive for one person might be cheap for another. It's all relative. The price of a motorcycle, especially one that's going to be used as a beginner, really matters. I hate to say it, but your bike is probably going to be dropped several times as you learn, and you're going to be scuffing up some panels or parts. Replacing them might not be financially viable, and even if you do, what are you going to do if you drop it again? You should really consider the price of the bike compared to the value it's going to give you. We all want a shiny new Ducati, but at the end of the day, even if we can afford it, we should probably opt for something slightly used and a lower priced tag if it's going to be our beginner bike. Don't choose a bike that just fits your budget but also gives you the value of learning how to ride. Don't jump on a deal for a cheap later bike if that's what you're after. With the price of anything comes the associated value. A $1,500 bike will probably break on you as you're trying to learn, while a brand new Ninja 400 that you're dropping in the parking lot's not going to be fun either. Come to terms with what you feel is comfortable getting a little scratched up and then go from there. I'm going to be the first to tell you that buying a brand new starter bike is probably a waste of your money for your first bike. Buy a little bit used, a little bit cheaper, and go from there. So, what is a beginner bike? The bikes I have specifically in my giveaway series fit a lot of traits from this list, and we do it because I want to give people the opportunity to own a bike I would feel comfortable giving to them for free. Consider the Ninja 400. It's $5,000 brand new. It has a 399cc engine. It weighs 362 pounds wet and has 49 horsepower and 28 foot-pounds of torque. It has a top speed of 105 miles per hour. Its riding position has 19 degrees of forward lean angle for the 5'6" rider. These traits are what makes this bike perfect for most beginners, in my opinion. It's not expensive, it's not heavy, and has enough grunt to get into traffic and go 75 miles per hour with no problem, and it's comfortable for nearly everyone. I think the 400 is a perfect starting platform for nearly any kind of rider. So GSXR 600, it's $11,399 brand new and has a 599cc engine. It weighs 425 pounds wet, has 129 horsepower and 50 foot-pounds of torque. Its top speed is 155 miles per hour. The riding position? For the same 5'6" rider, the forward lean angle is 42 degrees. You're way pitched over. The Gixxer is more expensive, heavier by 60 pounds, and has over double the power, almost double the torque, and a top speed 50 miles per hour faster, and a forward lean angle more than double that of the Ninja 400. For someone that's never been on the street riding a motorcycle before, which bike would you prefer to learn on? There isn't a right or wrong answer because people start on both different types of bike. But the question you need to ask yourself is, do I want to learn how to be a competent motorcyclist, or do I just want to try to survive on this bike? Thanks for watching today's video. Let me know in the comments about what bike you started on, what bike you'd like to start on. If you're not in the US and you don't have the choices we have here, let me know in the comments below as well. Maybe that's a good thing. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later. Fact: the current $5 bill in circulation has strips on the back that are blanked out when infrared light is applied. This can only be seen with an infrared camera on or with night vision. Goodbye.